He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. We are not rich by what we possess but by what we can do without. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. I had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. One who makes himself a worm cannot complain afterwards if people step on him. Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe, the more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them, the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Rules for happiness, something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. Whereas the beautiful is limited, the sublime is limitless, so that the mind in the presence of the sublime, attempting to imagine what it cannot, has pain in the failure but pleasure in contemplating the immensity of the attempt. For peace to reign on earth, humans must evolve into new beings who have learned to see the whole first. Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. Seek not the favor of the multitude, it is seldom got by honest and lawful means. But seek the testimony of few, and number not voices, but weigh them. Genius is the ability to independently arrive at and understand concepts that would normally have to be taught by another person. The busier we are, the more acutely we feel that we live, the more conscious we are of life. But only he who, himself enlightened, is not afraid of shadows. Space and time are the framework within which the mind is constrained to construct its experience of reality. Thoughts without content are empty, intuitions without concepts are blind. Dare to know. Have the courage to use your own intelligence. The reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. Have patience a while, slanders are not long-lived. Truth is the child of time, ere long she shall appear to vindicate thee. We are enriched not by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Man must be disciplined, for he is by nature raw and wild. We are not rich by what we possess but by what we can do without. Patience is the strength of the weak, impatience is the weakness of the strong. But a lie is a lie, and in itself intrinsically evil, whether it be told with good or bad intents. Most men use their knowledge only under guidance from others because they lack the courage to think independently using their own reasoning abilities. It takes intellectual daring to discover the truth. Science is organized knowledge. Wisdom is organized life. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. Always recognize that human individuals are ends, and do not use them as means to your end. Live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law. The wise man can change his mind, the stubborn one, never. Give a man everything he wants and at that moment everything is not everything. One is not rich by what one owns, but more by what one is able to do without with dignity. A single line in the Bible has consoled me more than all the books I ever read besides. Two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe, the oftener and more steadily we reflect on them, the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. The greatest human quest is to know what one must do in order to become a human being. If man makes himself a worm, he must not complain when he is trodden on. The bad thing of war is that it makes more evil people than it can take away. For peace to reign on earth, humans must evolve into new beings who have learned to see the whole first. Feminine traits are called weaknesses. People joke about them, fools ridicule them, but reasonable persons see very well that those traits are just the tools for the management of men, and for the use of men for female designs. There are two things that don't have to mean anything, one is music and the other is laughter. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. Space and time are the framework within which the mind is constrained to construct its experience of reality. The human heart refuses to believe in a universe without a purpose. Man's duty is to improve himself, to cultivate his mind, and, when he finds himself going astray, to bring the moral law to bear upon himself. Heaven has given human beings three things to balance the odds of life: hope, sleep, and laughter. Laziness and cowardice explain why so many men remain under a lifelong tutelage and why it is so easy for some men to set themselves up as the guardians of all the rest. If I have a book which understands for me, a pastor who has a conscience for me, a doctor who decides my diet, I need not trouble myself. If I am willing to pay, I need not think. Others will do it for me. Genius is the ability to independently arrive at and understand concepts that would normally have to be taught by another person. The question is not so much whether there is life on Mars as whether it will continue to be possible to live on Earth. One who makes himself a worm cannot complain afterwards if people step on him. There is a limit where the intellect fails and breaks down, and this limit is where the questions concerning God and free will and immortality arise. Morality is not properly the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. Immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another. The nice thing about living in a small town is that when you don't know what you are doing, someone else does. He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. If we knew that God exists, such knowledge would make morality impossible. For, if we acted morally from fear or fright, or confident of a reward, then this would not be moral. It would be enlightened selfishness. The busier we are, the more acutely we feel that we live, the more conscious we are of life. If a man is often the subject of conversation, he soon becomes the subject of criticism. Every man is to be respected as an absolute end in himself, and it is a crime against the dignity that belongs to him as a human being, to use him as a mere means for some external purpose. Always regard every man as an end in himself, and never use him merely as a means to your ends, i.e., respect that each person has a life and purpose that is their own. Do not treat people as objects to be exploited. The desire which a man has for a woman is not directed towards her because she is a human being, but because she is a woman. That she is a human being is of no concern to the man, only her sex is the object of his desires. Often war is waged only in order to show valor, thus an inner dignity is ascribed to war itself, and even some philosophers have praised it as an ennoblement of humanity, forgetting the pronouncement of the Greek who said, "War is an evil in as much as it produces more wicked men than it takes away." The arts of speech are rhetoric and poetry. Rhetoric is the art of transacting a serious business of the understanding as if it were a free play of the imagination, poetry that of conducting a free play of the imagination as if it were a serious business of the understanding. If we could see ourselves, as we really are, we should see ourselves in a world of spiritual natures, our community which neither began at birth nor will end with the death of the body. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed knowledge. Knowledge is the inability to use one's own understanding without another's guidance. This knowledge is self-imposed if its cause lies not in lack of understanding but in indecision and lack of courage to use one's own mind without another's guidance. Dare to know. Human reason has the peculiar fate in one species of its cognitions that it is burdened with questions which it cannot dismiss, since they are given to it as problems by the nature of reason itself, but which it also cannot answer, since they transcend every capacity of human reason. Whereas the beautiful is limited, the sublime is limitless, so that the mind in the presence of the sublime, attempting to imagine what it cannot, has pain in the failure but pleasure in contemplating the immensity of the attempt. The existence of the Bible, as a book for the people, is the greatest benefit which the human race has ever experienced. Every attempt to belittle it is a crime against humanity. All the interests of my reason, speculative as well as practical, combine in the three following questions. 1. What can I know? 2. What ought I to do? 3. What may I hope? Marriage is the union of two people of different sexes with a view to the mutual possession of each other's sexual attributes for the duration of their lives. Religion is too important a matter to its devotees to be a subject of ridicule. If they indulge in absurdities, they are to be pitied rather than ridiculed. Marriage is the union of two people of different sexes with a view to the mutual possession of each other's sexual attributes for the duration of their lives. The wish to talk to God is absurd. We cannot talk to one we cannot comprehend, and we cannot comprehend God, we can only believe in Him. The science of mathematics presents the most brilliant example of how pure reason may successfully enlarge its domain without the aid of experience. The ultimate destiny of the human race is the greatest moral perfection, provided that it is achieved through human freedom,